seen a lot of revealed stuff recently for Black Ops 6, with a little more on the way before launch next week. It looks like probably Monday we'll see the Prestige system and Progression blog revealed, with also our first look at camos and everything that comes along with that system. But in the meantime, I wanted to take a look at the reveal that kind of went under the radar. It wasn't from the first-party platforms like the COD blog, like other reveals in this past week, but instead in an interview published with IGN, as well as GameFile, both of which kind of lost in the reveals for multiplayer content as of yesterday and the day before. So drop your thoughts as we go along. What do you think of this information granted from this interview? Find it a bit surprising? Find that you like it, dislike it, whatever the case? Drop your thoughts. If you enjoy the video, you find it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. Of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Black Ops 6. Can't thank you guys enough for the support as of recently. You guys have been killing it. And of course, we are on that lofty goal of trying to reach 600,000 subscribers by launch, or at the least closing that gap a little further. So if you're part of that, perhaps 75% of viewers not subscribed and you're new here, I'd love to have you in the community. But for now, let's get into these reveals. First and foremost, the information really kind of gathered as a baseline for these reports and interviews is relatively good news. Apparently, development for the game appears to have gone incredibly smoothly, as opposed to prior titles where they had to see major developmental pivots based off of prior year feedback. Modern Warfare 3, Vanguard, Cold War, before it, all had their own sort of hurdles. Black Ops 6 seems to be just left alone to its own devices and making its own type of thing. And in the sense of setting and crafting this universe of Black Ops 6, it's mentioned that there were really no issues with the development of the campaign, considering Modern Warfare 3's lackluster reviews. John Zuck, Associate Creative Director at Raven Software, who is heading up the campaign for Black Ops 6, stated, "All game development is very fluid and we react to a lot of different things, but in the case of the previous game's reception, we were already pretty locked in on the story we were telling and the missions we were creating, so we didn't react to how that was received. The extra development time certainly gives us a little more time for prototyping and a little bit more trying something out, finding out if it's fun and if it works, and throwing things away. When you have the shorter development cycle, sometimes you're stuck with things just for time crunch that maybe you aren't as happy with as you could be. So I do feel like we had a good opportunity to keep crafting and recrafting the missions until we were happy with them." So that's obviously great to hear, that they had ample time and to be able to craft something that is going to be enjoyable to play and also tell that story they're hoping to get across. In that interview, it's also detailed a little bit further that player choice is key with Blockbuster experiences, hopefully at every single level here, at least designed that way, which is nice to hear. I feel like some campaigns have those definitive pockets of wow factor that you're like blown away by, but others not so much, that those pockets only produce those cool moments every hour or so of game time. So to have something that is pushing the envelope to have that for every single mission is pretty cool. That's pretty nice to hear, I think, and it's pretty hard to come by. Now, the one thing they detailed was that the campaign itself is going to indeed be linear. In this interview and this article from IGN, it was mentioned these gameplay options won't necessarily have an impact on the story as a whole, though, as the plot itself is locked in this time around with no multiple or hidden endings to go in search of. Quoting Zuck once again, Black Ops 6 is a linear story, so there is not a branching ending for this one. And he also promises a slightly longer campaign than Cold War's. So two sort of key pieces of information here for story nerds and campaign fans. One, of course, no multiple endings here, that unless they're just adhering to the truth lies and they're just putting out false information all the time until you get to that point in the campaign where your choices actually do matter and it ends up having multiple endings. Unless they're saying that to throw us off the scent here, it does seem like we're returning back to a traditional COD campaign. That's one thing that, while I understand it and I'm totally fine with it, I'm still excited to see where the story goes, I was really hoping that they'd end up having something continuing off of Black Ops Cold War, that they would maybe keep that going here based off the success of that kind of stuff. I mean, Cold War was the first time we saw multiple endings since Black Ops 2, and I love that kind of stuff. I think that it connected you, the player, with the story more, given that you were kind of the driving force behind how it ended up. But anyways, no multiple endings, but then they also mentioned that it would be something that's longer than Black Ops Cold War's campaign. And also, in an interview with GameFile, Yale Miller, production director, stated that it's kind of in length with the classic Call of Duty campaigns, which puts it historically around 6 to 9 hours based off of averages. For lengths by comparison, you can check out the list on screen of everything that has been the historical average for each of those games. Obviously, it varies based on the player, but those those are the averages that come away with every single year. A bit longer than recent years. It seems like those most recent years have kind of favored shorter campaigns with the exception of Modern Warfare 2. But one thing that does surprise me looking at those averages is how short Cold Wars was despite the open world nature of some missions and despite how much there was to do with like the evidence board and the side missions and such, which I guess if you're in a timetable of standard development like you have, let's just say 3 years across the board to work on a game, if you're taking some of what is developed in that same timetable comparably and being like, okay, this part isn't needed, I guess if you kind of just play through what is needed, it would take on average way shorter time to complete than other Call of Duties. But a 6 to 9 hour COD is great, I think, and it is mentioned that you can speedrun it or take some time to get through everything, explore the multiple ways to approach levels and scenarios. Personally, I'm gonna be doing that. I really like the element of choice presented in these missions like Desperate Measures, which, shout out, that mission was mentioned in these interviews explicitly and was sort of the comparison point to the campaign that we're going to see this year. But also with the mention of only having linear storylines to follow this time around, that also might be referring back to what we just mentioned, that you have all focus now put into one singular storyline, that you're not going to speed through one a little quicker because some stuff is optional, if that makes sense. But anyways, this entire thing just makes the whole no early access way more interesting and way more tough to decide what I want to do. With multiplayer, campaign, and zombies, I do think that it's a tough battle for my time on launch day and that launch weekend. Like, as a channel and creator that mostly revolves around multiplayer content in the COD franchise, I almost feel like, well, why wouldn't I just jump right into MP and start making content and not have that fear of missing out or being behind schedule, but at the same time, also a story nerd who loves campaigns and especially the last Black Ops title with Cold War, so I also want to experience that. I'd love to jump into zombies and see if that's a great way to level up your player or weapon levels as well. So we'll have to see how everything breaks down. It's probably going to be a game time decision for me, but I do think it's genuinely a tough call this year. Competing for your time played with so much, like not only just in multiplayer and in zombies, but even campaigns going to have dark ops challenges, 100% or calling cards and stuff like that, the longer narrative. And of course, then campaign rewards for playing and completing tasks, where if you don't want to spend that extra $30 on the Vault Edition, you still do have 5 additional permanent unlocks via blueprints with the campaign rewards that you can end up doing by just simply completing some missions and then some things like upgrades and puzzles in the safe house as well. So honestly, ultimately struggling on what I want to play first this year, which is the first time that's happened in a while. But anyways, wanted to fill you guys in here and keep you up to date with absolutely everything that you would need to know about Black Ops 6 going into the launch week here upcoming. So more reveals are going to be coming on the way again. I'm expecting something on Monday for the progression and the camos. That stuff could be happening a little later on in the week, but I would imagine it's sooner rather than later. But just wanted to fill you guys in. Before we wrap everything up though, make sure you check out my friends over at Gamer Advantage to gear up for Black Ops 6's launch. They are what I firmly believe are the best blue light glasses on the market. I've worked with these guys for 4 years now, which is crazy to consider and cannot recommend them enough. The most lightweight, comfortable, and durable frames on the market as far as I've used, and definitely think they've helped my daily productivity. Now, full transparency, they are a bit more of an investment, but I do think your vision's absolutely worth investing into, especially if you're like me and you're going to be grinding out Black Ops 6 here this upcoming weekend into the next month or so. If you're going to be looking at a phone, monitor, or gaming for a good chunk of your day, I absolutely think they can help you out. If you guys would like to learn more, at the very least, I'd recommend checking out their website where they can better break down the science and all the specifics way better than I could, but what I can personally say is that I'd highly recommend them. So if you'd like to learn more, check the link in the description below, and if you want to pick something up for yourself, use code Espresso to get 10% off your entire order. For now, that is where we're going to wrap it up. Let me know your thoughts down below. What do you guys think of this? Do we only have one ending for Black Ops 6? Firstly, do you even believe that's the case, or do you think they're lying to cover up the multiple endings? What do you think of the longer duration of the campaign? And what are you going to be jumping into first? Let me know your thoughts down below. But if you guys enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor, drop a like on it. Of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Black Ops 6 as we gear up for launch and beyond. We have so much you guys will not want to miss. So thank you guys so much for being here. Truly appreciate you. Take care and peace.